Hey my bookish people, welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk to you guys about my favorite books of all time. If you guys have been following me for quite some time, you should already know that I love contemporary romance and I love a great mystery and a thriller book. You know, I love to help solve the mysteries. I love to wonder what is coming up next. And I just love a great love story. That is my jam. But your girl has found a new love for the genre called historical fiction. Yes, I have. I have been reading a few books of historical fiction and I have just fell in love, y'all. I really have. So if you're interested, just stick with me and let's get into this, my favorite books of all time. Let's do this. Wait, y'all, hold on just one second. If you are interested in any of my vlogs, if this video interests you of any kind, if you stay to the end, subscribe to my channel and don't forget to tell a friend, tell that friend to tell a friend. And so let's get straight into this video. Into this video. So I do have my little tablet here, so if you see me looking down, y'all, that's what I'm doing. I usually try to put stuff on my iPad, but I wanted to write it down, so I just use pencil and paper. So my favorite books of all time, I am super excited to give y'all this favorite book of all times because it consists of like a number of different diverse books. It consists of thrillers, I think, historical fiction, of course contemporary romance. Like I am just a killer of contemporary romance. Like I love a good love story. I love true love. You know, y'all, you know all the things. Like I really do love that kind of stuff. So I'm not gonna hold you guys long, so I'm just going to jump straight into this video. So the first book that I want to talk about is The Personal Librarian by Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murphy. I want to start off by saying, if y'all listen to audiobooks or if you guys actually, you know, read the books as well, do y'all pay attention to the author's notes that's at the beginning or at the end of the book? I usually don't, but I did when I read The Personal Librarian, and it was just so interesting the way Maria and Victoria got together, met each other, and actually wrote this book. So The Personal Librarian is what we're going to talk about right now, y'all. I stinking loved this book. Historical fiction, I had no idea that I would love this book the way I did. But I've not been able to stop thinking about this book. The history, the life of Bella Greener was heartfelt, realistic, and emotional. Bella had to make a sacrifice for her family once her dad left, and it consisted of living a white life, lying to hold a job that was supporting her family as a very young girl. Bella was a strong lady who was determined to be successful no matter how long she needed to hold her secret. She worked for J.P. Morgan at his library. Bella was intelligent. She had a great sense of style, y'all, and wit to survive in the racist world in which she lived in. So I enjoyed this book, y'all. This book just brought back so many memories, so many historical things that I have actually read like during school or just seen on TV. This book brought back so many of those memories. Bella, she was a strong woman young woman at that, and she just did what she needed to do to make sure that her family was okay. And I just thought it was so intriguing that she was able to live the double life that she did. This book also reminded me of The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. I think that's how you say her name. But I really and truly loved this book. So the next book that we're going to talk about, that is one of my favorite books of all time, is Educated by Tara Westover. This is a memoir. Y'all know I love a good memoir. The reason why I love a good memoir is because I just like to know the struggles of that person's life, what they've been through, what they have overcome, and how successful they are now. Because like I tell you guys, everybody has a story. I don't care who you are, where you're from, everybody has a story. So Tara Westover's story was very heartbreaking for me. She had to, as a young child, she had to deal with a very dysfunctional family. And I feel like there is a lot of children that has to deal with a dysfunctional family. And what I mean by that is like bipolarism, you know, just a physical, emotional, and verbal family. You never know what goes on behind closed doors in these young kids' families. So Tara, she was pretty much physically and emotionally, psychologically abused by her father and her brother, one of her brothers. The things that Tara went through with her father and with her brother was just so heartbreaking for me. I almost cried throughout this whole book. And I feel like, guys, like when a lot of these young kids act up, they are so rebellious, they are just so angry and so moody when they are in high school, even little grade school. I feel like because it's something that is going on within their family that gets them to react that way. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, and please y'all put down in the comments what y'all think about what I just said and what I'm talking about in this book. But I really do feel like that because kids are growing kids and they learn from home. And in this book, Tara had to go through so much. She had to, you know, work on in the family business, and if she wanted not to work in the family business and like go work somewhere else or try to go get an education, her father was so hell-bent on it. He was pretty much, to my understanding or my thought, he was just pretty much brainwashed, y'all. He had a problem. And her brother, I forgot what his name was. What was his name? But he was horrible. He was straight horrible. Those were the two least favorite characters in this book because they were just so mean. They were horrible. Horrible to their family, horrible to themselves. They were just horrible, y'all. But I really my heart went out to her mom. Her mom was trying to play both sides of the fence. She was trying to make her husband happy, but she was also trying to make sure that her kids were getting the best that they needed to get. So she was like in a rock and a hard place. But if you love memoirs and you like to know the struggle of people's life, how they got where they are, what they had to go through in order to get to where they are, I would suggest you guys read memoirs because they will stick with you for the rest of your life. I really truly believe that. So the next one is by Angie Thomas. It is The Hate You Give. This one here, I believe, is a Bandit book. It's like on the Bandit book list. I enjoyed this book. I read this book some months ago, even probably toward the end of last year, I think. I'm not sure, but this book brought tears. I bawled when I read this book. I feel like I kind of read this book in about a couple of days. I bawled my eyes out, y'all. This is pretty much about racism. It's about racism. It's about psychological, mind-blowing, just stuff that happens, y'all. This book was about a girl named Star, and childhood friend, which he was still a child, but his name was Khalil, and he was killed by the hands of an officer. She was actually in the car with him. She was one of course, the witness to what happened, but she did not want to be known as a star witness because of the type of environment that she lived in, with the gangs, with the shootings, and all of the things, y'all. The wording in this book, the dialogue in this book, the descriptive writing in this book will break your heart. It will break your heart. And I can't say that it just broke my heart because I am a black woman. I feel like if you're not racist, if you don't believe in the racist dealings, then this book will break your heart regardless of what culture that you are in. But Angie Thomas, The Hate You Give, that book will stick with me for the rest of my life, y'all. It will. The next one is The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. I also read this book some time ago. I was heartbroken in this book as well. I kind of wept a little bit. My heart so went out to Eden. She was a young girl that was pretty much, hold on y'all, I don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm not going to go too far with saying things about this book, but my heart went out to Eden. She was a high school student. Something happened to her. She felt like if she told somebody about it, that they would not believe her because of who the person is. I have heard this type of story so many times in real life, y'all. This book was so emotional for me because I have kids. I have little girls, and even if I had boys, like it was so emotional for me, and like I'm trying to hold back the tears right now as I think about the dialogue and just what this storyline was about, because so many kids go through what this girl went through in this book, and I feel like it is just so terrible when you are in a family, you are a kid, you're in a family, and you feel like you cannot go to your family, which is your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, whatever, auntie, uncle, and tell them what is going on with you, what happened to you, and that you will be believed. I feel like that is the worst thing, y'all. And this book brings tears to my eyes. It just really brings tears to my eyes, y'all. There's just not too much that I can say about this book without completely bawling in front of y'all. So I would just suggest you read this book, but I really do want to let you guys know that this book will, if you are a loving parent, if you have been through anything throughout your life of growing up, this book will be so emotional for you, and I just want to warn you guys about that. But The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. Guys, Only for the Weak by Natasha Bishop. I read this book in one day. This was the first book that I read by Natasha Bishop. It's a fairly short book, so like if you're in a reading slump, you will be able to read this book in one sitting, and you will want to read another book. Possibly not by Natasha Bishop, but you will get out of that reading slump. This book was bomb. So pretty much this lady right here, her name is, what is her name? Y'all, it's been a hot minute since I read this book, but it is about Janelle and Rome. Janelle and Rome was pretty much like the hot commodity in this book. But Janelle, she used to go with this guy. It did not work with this guy, so her sister ended up going with the guy, and they are ending up to be married. So they are getting married in Tulum, I think it is. Janelle, I felt like Janelle should have been mad as hell with her sister for going with a guy that she used to go with, and then on top of that marrying this guy. But Janelle went through so much in this book, not just from her sister, but from her well, not her family, because her dad was pretty much on her side, but her mom and her sister. They were just so evil to her. I could have kicked them in their ass, y'all. But when they went to Tulum to actually, for the marriage, you know, for them to be married, whatever, she actually got up with Rome, and like, they were explosive. They were truly explosive. And during this book, Janelle actually stood up to her mom and her sister, and I was like, you go, girl. You go, girl. And the success that Janelle and Rome actually ended up having with their business, their relationship, and Janelle just ended up being happy. And I was so happy about that, because this girl was the freaking bomb. The descriptions of like how she looked, what she wore, like all the things, y'all will love this book. This book will forever stay on my shelf, and I will read this book every stinking year, y'all. First book I read by Natasha Bishop. I have been hearing of a lot of different books, some different books by Natasha Bishop that I need to pick up. And I want to say one of them is When I Come Home, or something like that. But I am very eager to pick that book up. I don't like the cover of the paperback. If the cover of the paperback looks like it does on Kindle. But I seen Shawnee C, she was reading the hardback book of that title, and like the hardback book cover was so beautiful. So when I do pick up that book, I will be picking up a hardback cover of that book. So Only by the Week by Natasha Bishop, one of my faves. I loved this book. We're not finished, y'all. And this is just the tip of the iceberg on the books that are my fave of all time. I have so many books that I just will never give away to a little free library. I just really stinking love these books. So the next one is a Kennedy Ryan book. It is Before I Let Go. And y'all, this book was emotional, raw, real, and so addictive. This book was great. Look at the cover. The cover is stunning. I finally had got a chance to read in this book, and I was not disappointed. I had been hearing so many things about Kennedy Ryan's books, and I love this book. So this book was just pretty much about Yasmin and Josiah. They were I want to say recently divorced couple, but they actually became a divorced couple because of many wrong reasons. And I won't say many wrong reasons. I will probably, well, I guess I can say many wrong reasons, because like the reason why they got divorced kind of like stemmed onto other little minor things that happened during the time that they were going through their little mishap. But anyway, so Janelle and Yasmin, I think they actually ended up getting divorced, but they still had a business together and they had kids. So like they had contact with each other no matter what at all times. So during the time that they were doing their business together, raising their kids together, each one of them, you know, decided to try to date someone else. Child, that was a big mistake, because the only thing they ended up doing was hurting the people that they was trying to date. Y'all, the way the way Yasmin reacted to the girl that actually worked at the restaurant when she saw her, like I think it was either at his house or, you know, anyway, the kids were with Josiah. And the way she reacted with that, I was like, you get it, Yasmin. You get it, because regardless, that is your husband. That's your baby daddy. Like, that's your man. So the way she reacted to them being together was so funny. And then the way Josiah actually reacted to when he figured out or thought that she was actually seeing somebody else, you could clearly tell that they still loved each other. But the little mishap that happened with them, I don't really feel like because I think Josiah, he was not like really into like therapy. He did not think it worked, and this, that, and the other. And I thought it was just so heartfelt when he finally thought about, well, maybe this therapy and everything can work. When his son started going through a lot and he needed therapy, he was willing to go to the therapy with his son. And I said that that is a true father. I love the way Josiah would chastise his children, especially that girl, when it came down to how she treated her mom, Yasmin. But guys, this is a delicious, and I can truly say a deliciously emotional, raw, true love, second chance at romance type book. I stinking loved it. So I will always want to read this book. I'll possibly read it next year. So the next one is Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. I told y'all I love the way she writes her books. Now this one is about August and Iris, and I'm going to tell y'all, when y'all start reading this book, please look at the very first few pages of this book, because they have content warnings, and this book has a lot of triggers in it. This book has a lot of physical, emotional triggers in it, child abuse, like all different kind of triggers in it, y'all. So please read your trigger warnings. Please read your content warnings before you start reading a book, because we don't want you to be triggered of any kind. But I love this book. Iris and August, they were my book couple. Like, I was so in love with Iris and August. Iris went through so much with, what's his name? He was another NBA player. She went through so much with him. He was so jealous of August to the point where he just treated Iris like crap. Especially when he saw that Iris actually made eye contact with August. It was just so rough, y'all. I literally like cried throughout this whole book, and the things that he did to her were just off the wall. And I just want to share something with you guys. This book right here resonated to me so deeply, y'all, because what Iris went through in The Long Shot, and if you read this book, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. I went through that for 2 years. So this book really brought out some very emotional background for me, some very emotional memories for me, but in the same token, y'all, it brought pride to my life as well at that present moment when I was reading this book. Because regardless of what you go through, just like Iris and August, you can always overcome what anybody throws your way. So the domestic violence, the emotional, physical, verbal abuse, I experienced all of that for a couple of years, and I was just so glad when I got my very strong mind, my very strong feet, my very strong heart to get out of that situation. So this book will always stay on my shelf, and it will always be a eye-opener for me. It will always be a memory for me of what I went through and what I've overcome, and this book will always remind me of my success. So Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan, I loved that book. My first S.A. Crosby book that I ever read, Razor Blade Tears. Chef's kiss, y'all. This book will remain on my shelf as well forever. I would never give this book away. S.A. Crosby, he does that. He writes a great book. I've read one other book by him, and I loved it as well. This book was a great book. This book is a eye-opener for any family member that has people in it, or they have a kid that is gay. This book will really open your eyes to try and accept who that person is and what that person wants to be, because you never know if you will continue to see them, to chastise them about what they have chosen or not. And so in this book, Buddy and Ike, I want to say, they had two sons. I think Ike was black and Buddy was white. So Ike's son and Buddy's son, they actually loved each other and they were a couple. Buddy and Ike did not approve of their love. They did not approve of their relationship. So they were pretty mean and offstanding to the two sons until the two sons end up being killed by someone. And once their two sons were killed by someone, that is what brought out the feelings, the emotions for Buddy Lee of how he felt about his son when he didn't show it, and Ike of what he felt about his son when he did not show it. So those two, they got together. They were determined to make sure that whoever killed their sons because of their relationship status was dealt with. Ike was a MF in this book. He did not play the radio. Buddy Lee, he had some health issues going on, so he was just as firm and just as explosive as Ike was. But y'all, this was a great book. Will always stay on my shelf. I will read this book, or I can read this book every year. Historical fiction again, and y'all, this author has really became a star author of mine in historical fiction. This one is called The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. I fell deeply in love with this book, and I did write a couple of things down about this book that I wanted to share with you guys. So The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna is a historical fiction book, and it was like the second or third book that I've read of historical fiction, but this book was a huge eye-opener for me. The struggles, the stress with how to make it was so historical, y'all. This book was written in the 1900s, which was like 1934, and during that time tons of people were losing their jobs. The farmhand people who, you know, like owned the lands with the farms and stuff, they were struggling to keep their livelihood so that they can live. This was also during the time of the Great Depression, and I think it's called the Dust Bowl era. I did not understand or know what any of that was. The dust storm roll. I did not know what any of that meant or anything, because of course, remember y'all, I am not a historical fiction girl, so I did have to look that stuff up, and that era was actually real. So, you know, the Great Depression is, you know, I'm guessing when people was losing their jobs, things were just not feasible for especially the people who were not rich to live. And the dust roll, that was when there were always dust storms, there was no rain, you know, they couldn't grow crops, their animals didn't have water and food to eat. And y'all, it was one part in this book when the family, they wanted to, you know, the mom was very steadfast on wanting to stay put and survive through the dust thingy. And it was one part in this book that just really broke my heart. It was when, alright guys, sorry about that, it was my mom calling, but we were talking about The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. This book was so good. Just the last little thing that I wanted to say to you guys about this book, it was emotional. The emotions I had through this book was real. The characters were so real. The Four Winds made me feel so grateful for the life I live with food, water, and a place to stay. And I'm saying that because if y'all have actually read this book, you will know the struggles that these families went through, living on the side of the road, not having food to eat, and all the things, y'all. That book brought back so many memories. of things that my mom used to tell me, how they went through different things, how they had to survive, and how they had to live. I will always remember this book. The last book that is my favorite book of all time that I will read every year, y'all, is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. I finally had read this book, y'all, and I don't want to give this book away, and I won't give this book away, but it is a dynamic love story with restoring everyone's faith in love. I think I wrote something down about that book too, because like I really did enjoy this book. So I said Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren is a book I can read every year. This book had me all warm and bubbly inside, along with being an emotional wreck. A great second chance at love. Macy and Elliot. Macy had her life all put together. Perfect little bubble. You know, she was I think she was a pediatrician. You know, she had her career together. She was actually supposed to be married or engaged, all the things. But when she saw Elliot again, everything just came back to her. Like her bubble actually got busted, because like she actually was not happy, because from the way she felt about Elliot when she first seen him, like she actually was not in love with the person that she was trying to build her life with. Now Elliot, he was the guy that she would talk to when they were kids. They were teenagers. They felt many feelings toward each other, and they devoured books, sharing their favorite stories. So that is also what I loved about this book, is that books as a teenager actually brought these two together. Like I want to say when Elliot would come over to Macy's house, like they would sit in a closet or something like that, and they would actually read books together. Macy and Elliot, this book was going in and out, like then and now, from when Macy and Elliot are adults, and from when Macy and Elliot were kids, teenagers. So I did love that about this book. It was not hard to follow with the then and now, because the then and nows were just so well put together and came in and out at such a great moment. But this right here was a perfect love story, y'all. This book was dynamic. I love this book. I love the way I felt while I was reading this book, and I love the second chance at romance that Macy and Elliot actually was given for each other. That just makes me like so happy inside, y'all. So happy. And y'all know I love to read books like that, because that kind of mimics my life. Like I'm always happy. I'm always trying to laugh. I'm always trying to have fun wherever I go. And in my relationships, I want to be able to remember some of the things that we did as kids. And not kids, Lord have mercy. I want to be able to remember some of the things we did when we first got together, when we first fell in love with each other, and like do those things again. And that's like going to the movies, writing little letters, sitting here and looking at a movie together. If that other person liked books, reading books together, and just all the things, y'all. So if you guys have stuck with me to the end, thank you, and I hope you subscribe to my channel. I hope you enjoyed the books that I gave you guys. That is my favorite books of all times. If you have read any of those books and you have anything you want to say about those books, just drop it down in the comments. Let's have a conversation about them. Tell me how you felt about these books, y'all. These were my favorite books of all time. So subscribe to my channel, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.